Chapter 24 The Secret Cave. The sun had nearly reached the meridian, and his scorching rays fell full on the rocks, which seemed themselves sensible of the heat. Thousands of grasshoppers, hidden in the bushes, chirped with a monotonous and dull note. The leaves of the myrtle and the olive trees waved and rustled in the wind. At every step that Edmund took, he disturbed the lizards glittering with the hues of the emerald. Afar off he saw the wild goats bounding from crag to crag. In a word, the island was inhabited. Yet Edmund felt himself alone, guided by the hand of God. He felt an indescribable sensation somewhat akin to dread. That dread of the daylight which even in the desert makes us fear that we are watched and observed. This feeling was so strong that at the moment when Edmund was about to begin his labor, he stopped, laid down his pickaxe, seized his gun, mounted to the summit of the highest rock, and from thence gazed round in every direction. But it was not upon Corsica, the very houses of which he could distinguish, or on Sardinia, or on the island of Elba, with its historical associations, or upon the almost imperceivable line that to the experienced eye of a sailor alone revealed the coast of Genoa the proud, and Leghorn the commercial, that he gazed. It was at the brigantine that had left in the morning, and the tartan that had just set sail, that Edmund fixed his eyes. Kicking off chapter 24... with Edmund being a little precautious. Is that a word? Approaching things with caution. He is taking precautions and approaching things with caution. Starting 24 off strong, folks. I love how Dumas really utilizes all of the senses, but not at once. So here, he's giving us the cacophony of sounds that come from an inhabited island of animals. The grasshoppers, the lizards scuttling about, the, general insects, and I guess flora doesn't make any noise. But, I know it's grasshoppers, but I'm picturing cicada noises. Just the whirring, wee, 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 wee. Oh, God, that sounds awful. I'm terrible at impressions. I'm even worse at insect noises. That, you can just get the sense that he is alone, and yet he feels a sense of eyes upon him. Dumas writes this in a way that is interesting to note whether or not Dumas is bringing his experience for the association or if he's trying to hook it into Edmund's experience. And by that, I want to pull out the sentence here, that dread of the daylight, which even in the desert makes us fear that we are watched and observed. Now, is that Dumas hooking into what he believes to be a universal experience for all readers? Or is he trying to hook that into Edmund's experience, displaying his kind of paranoia from having been in the dungeon for so long that maybe he is more nervous in the daylight? Because I would imagine for most of us, that feeling that you're being watched comes from not being able to see what's around you, whereas Dante is feeling that sensation because he's used to four walls, and now the open landscape and the daylight illuminate just how many places someone could be hiding. It's kind of an inverse of his imagination working on him. It's like when most of us who haven't been in prison for 14 years in a dark dungeon, we go into, say, a basement, and suddenly our hackles are up because we're like, we can't see all of the places that a person, a monster, a threat could be lurking. And so our brain fills that in with our greatest fears. Dante is the exact opposite. He's been trained in the darkness, to see the darkness, to live in the darkness, to know what to expect from the darkness. And so it's not his imagination that gets the best of him. It's what he can actually see with his and experience with his senses, the never-ending possibilities of a sprawling landscape, the trees, the horizon, our boats coming. Is there someone lingering on this island hiding behind, a bush? There is a lot he has to inventory as a potential threat here. One last thing I want to mention here, and then we're just going to get right underway to proceeding through chapter 24, is that a slight discrepancy, not a discrepancy, interpretive note that in this anonymous text that we are reading from here on the podcast, this chapter is called The Secret Cave. I'm reading also for my own enjoyment, and to just kind of illuminate what a translation can do, the Robin Buss translation from Penguin Classics, where the title of this chapter is called Dazzled. So that doesn't even seem like a translation note so much as an interpretation note. My research turned up that there are some translations that even call this chapter The Discovery. And this plays... I did a little bit of research because, I can't let something like this just stick in my craw and go unanswered for the rest of my life. So welcome to how my damaged brain works. What I found in my research on this is that this comes down to what we were talking about at the end of chapter 23 in terms of serialization. When it was serialized initially, there weren't clear chapter breaks. There were clear cliffhangers or continuations from magazine to magazine issues, but it wasn't until it was compiled as a novel did they try to give each chapter and section, evocative titles. So what we're reading here is I wouldn't say the earliest translation, but it is the widely accepted anonymous translation that is in public domain, and it is what most people will probably read if they pick up a free ebook of this on their devices, or they pick up a cheap version of this like Barnes & Noble Classics or any non-prestige publication label, like a Penguin Classics is going to have their own translation of it. If you just pick up a cheap copy, you're likely picking up the anonymous translation, and that's going to have The Secret Cave. That is pulling from the very early translations of this book. Robin Buss and other more premier translations of this, they are pulling more from the critical French editions that came a bit later, around the 1960s. Now, the copy that I'm reading, the Penguin's Classic, doesn't actually make a note, an editor's note, as to why they favored this over the original chapter title. So I don't really have any insight into that. But I wanted to mention it now just because it kind of gives us the roadmap for this chapter of where we're going to go. The Secret Cave, that is one thing. Dazzled is another. So if we combine them together, we're going to encounter a secret cave, and we're going to be dazzled. So, does that mean what I think it's going to mean? There's only one way to find out, I guess, and that's to continue with Chapter 24. So, join me here tomorrow, won't you? Okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.